All right, friends, as prefaced, it's a one guest town on this episode of the
All
Spicer
right.
Speaking podcast. Fortunate to have a good one, a gentleman I just had the pleasure of interviewing in recent, I would say not weeks, but months, for an article I've told you about a few times coming out on the Coachella Valley Arena and our new Palm Springs AHL team for Palm Springs Life. Longtime former NHLer, also played a fair amount of minor league hockey. He is now segued from the rink to the administrative side. It's our Palm Springs AHL Director of Hockey and Business Operations. Welcome, Troy Bodie, to the Spicer Speaking podcast. Troy, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Very well. Thank you. How are you?
Doing fine. As I also offered my listeners, and in this case, viewers, finally getting a little more temperate here in the desert. And this is why we live here, man. Getting to be perfect conditions after we suffered through a long, hot swelter. And it can just imagine that a year from now, once we got the puck dropping, once we've got ice here in the desert, it's an exciting time. Of course, Troy, that is still a year away.
Mhm.
What is more current, or perhaps more nearing, is that you and I are speaking a day before our Big Daddy club, the Seattle Kraken, formally make their NHL debut. They're going to play on Tuesday, perhaps ironically, against the most recent expansion team, Vegas Golden Knights. And then they got like 5 road games before they finally debut in Seattle. I think it's on the 23rd of the month. Before we get into the Palm Springs stuff, let's talk about the Kraken a little bit. Have you taken time to assess, chat with Ron Francis, the GM, perhaps, kind of look over the roster, the drafts, the expansion draft, and again, assess for yourself what they've put together so far?
Yeah, we've it's been a long time coming, from all the planning and whatnot, and go right into the expansion draft. And we thought we did very well in expansion and through free agency to build a really competitive group. We were all up together in training camp and going through that process and everyone really getting to skate with each other and play with each other for the first time. It was really interesting getting to see how that unfolded. And now with the team coming together for the first game tomorrow in Vegas, we're really excited with the product on the ice overall. The forwards, D, goaltending, we're really excited.
Of course, by the time this episode comes out, the results of that first game will be in the books. I'm engaging from, as you said, the roster put together and the preseason had a solid 4-2 record. I mean, for whatever preseason hockey means, but referencing some of the skill sets, the recipe they put together. Tell me if I'm wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong. But as you said, very strong goaltending on the Kraken roster, um, along with what appears to be a pretty intriguing defensive unit. This does not, from what I've read and researched, looks like they might be involved in a lot of low scoring games. Does that sound about right to you?
I'm okay with low scoring. Absolutely. You get, strong goaltending and big physical, big strong D that no one wants to get through. I think that's a great recipe to keep the puck out of your net. And that's, it's not done by accident, that's for sure. But I'm very happy with a low scoring game, especially if we come out on the other side of it.
Do you think, as we now segue into talking about our own Palm Springs, yet to be named Palm Springs AHL team, again, we're a year away. That year is going to go pretty fast, especially once NHL hockey starts. I think it's just going to feel like our own debut gets closer and closer. But in your experience, going from minor league hockey to the NHL, sometimes back and forth, do you feel like the makeup of the minor league team echoes what the Big Daddy Club is generally doing, which is to say, perhaps this same recipe is what we might initially see in Palm Springs? Good goaltending, strong defense. Sounds like you're fine with that.
Oh, I'd be totally fine with it. I think when you actually get going in the minor leagues and you get your your draft choices and then some free agents come in, you're really just, you have a plan, but you don't know what these players are going to be when they're young and drafted, and kind of you get them in the American Hockey League and you kind of just go with what you have. Often, the coaches in the NHL club like to mirror their systems down in the American Hockey League for when those players come up and get called up, that they're comfortable jumping into an NHL game and right into their system. But I'd love to have strong goaltending, strong D, strong forwards, but you really kind of just go what you have. But we'll be a competitive club, that's for sure.
As we take a look at the players that were drafted by the Kraken and then the expansion draft, of course, there'll be another NHL draft before we have our team. Safe to say it's still way too early to kind of break down if any of these players are whom we might see on our Palm Springs ice.
Yeah, it's pretty early, but I think there's a couple players perhaps in our AHL affiliate at this moment in Charlotte, which is the Florida Panthers primary affiliate, and then we've partnered with them to house our affiliate players this year. So some of those players will be coming over next year. Which ones exactly, I'm not sure, but I'd be certain that some of them will be here, and then there might be a draft choice or two that make the jump as well from this year's draft. But again, that's stuff we assess throughout the year and kind of make those decisions as we go. But there's not a lot of promises ever made in hockey, but no, I think we'll see some of those players next year.
You just kind of segued to my next two questions, Troy. I mean, splitting, great job. Splitting with Florida Panthers, as you referenced, on the other side of the country with the Charlotte Checkers in this kind of gap year, this interim year, whatever you want to call it. Kind of an interesting place to start what I think I can call our team's farm system, in that, yeah, I mean, it's almost 2022. It's a modern era. You can get information everywhere, but it is on the other side of the country. What does that present for you and for some of the colleagues that have been put together in the Palm Springs front office, that team being so far away?
Yeah, I would say the geography is really the biggest challenge, really, if you've got to get a player called up or sent down type thing. But the reality of it is there's not a lot of teams in the National Hockey League willing to share their development system, and for several reasons. Usually, they just like to keep to themselves, but in numbers and number of players and whatnot. But Florida was very good to us to allow that, and it provides a bit of a challenge. But this is a good opportunity to see some of those players. We get them down there, and we've got good coaching staff down there. One of them, Dan Bilesma, who is employed by the Seattle Kraken. So we put him down there, and he has our interest in mind type thing. The head coach, Jordy Kinnear, is also very good, longtime AHL coach, very, good. And it's been a very good partnership with those two coaches so far in the whole affiliate as we get started here. They're just in training camp right now, but it'll be a good look at a lot of those players and that we hopefully get into Palm Springs next year.
One more on the players for you, Troy, before we delve a little deeper into what's going on here in the desert sands as our own team comes together. It's intriguing that the second pick in the NHL draft, which the Kraken had, they took Matty Berniers out of the University of Michigan. He opted to go back to college, which was especially intriguing in that the Wolverines had, amazingly, 3 of the top 5 picks in the NHL draft, and all 3 of those dudes went back to play college hockey. I mean, they had to play through the peak COVID season, and it seems like they all had, to borrow a tired phrase, unfinished business in college, which is respectable. I know it's tough to comment on what's going on with kids that are still in college, but the fact that Berniers is not playing professional hockey this year, be pretty enticing if there was an opportunity next year if he got his pro career underway here in the desert.
Yeah, well, it would be very enticing, and it's it's a lot of we give him a lot of credit for wanting to continue his schooling and really develop in that system. And it was such an unfortunate year last year where these kids didn't get to play a proper season, and having such a good team with top draft choices on their club, it was extra enticing to them to go and kind of finish what they started. And we very much encourage him to go do that this year and really find a way to win a championship. And we'd love it if we can get him down in the desert, and not too many second overall picks make it to the AHL for very long, but we'll have a place for him if that's the case.
Friends, you're tuning into the Spicer Speaking podcast. Troy Bodie is the Director of Hockey and Business Operations for our Palm Springs AHL team. As prefaced, it's the second time I've had opportunity to interview Troy, the first time for a new Palm Springs Life article on our team, on the arena, on the community, on the culture. That's going to be coming out at the end of October. Troy, it was great to interview you for that, for a variety of reasons, going back to your own professional hockey experience, parts of 5 seasons in the NHL. You also played minor league hockey in the WHL, the AHL, and the ECHL. And as we talked about for that article, maybe this is just a dangle to get folks to read that, but you went to some other markets that were not traditional hockey markets, which we are decidedly not. To kind of revisit that same question, what did you learn from some of those other markets that you think you can bring to your executive job here in the desert now?
Yeah, well, I think as much as some of the markets I played in were not, quote unquote hockey markets, and then Palm Desert and Palm Springs, whole Coachella Valley is not really, considered that. There isn't even a sheet of ice in the whole valley as of right now, and obviously we're changing that. But I think that's, it was exciting to see how the hockey really evolved in those small markets, and the demand that people had it. There's a lot of people that came to those games for the first time, not ever seeing hockey, and just being so excited about how fast paced and exciting and just knew that this whole sport was. And that's something I'm very excited to show once we get up and running. And I think that's really up to us to bring the fans in and show them a good time and prove that we're a lot of fun, we're worth watching, and this is really a team that we strive for the community to build around, and is we want this to be their team, and it's something they can cheer for. So it's something, I think it's a great opportunity, and we don't take lightly.
I agree entirely, sir. And as far as your job responsibilities as the Hockey and Business Operations Director, what are you working on right now for the team?
Oh, it's a lot of things. You kind of, I think the big thing that we got going on right now is we have a brand launch on November 5th that will where we'll actually unveil the team name and logo, and it's very exciting, and we get the opportunity to show everybody kind of what we've been working on. So that's it'll be an exciting day.
And that's exciting news to be able to share. I want to reiterate that November 5th, TikTok to that date. Can you talk about the process of going through? To me, the team name, yeah, it's a big thing. I'm not going to make it the biggest thing, but obviously a lot of people are excited about it. It's something that's been discussed for a while. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you've been through in choosing that team name, or choosing some of the jerseys, uniforms, marketing efforts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of it is, we really wanted to make it about being a desert team. We're the desert community, and we wanted to encompass all the the colors, the brand, the name, all of it, to be inclusive of the desert. And I think that was really big part of it. And it was a long time coming, a lot of back and forth and changes and reiterations and all that. But we didn't want this to just be just some name we picked out and just said, all right, let's go with this type thing.
The Eagles,
we really want
or
to
something
make it,
like that.
yeah. Exactly. So we want to make it like really unique to this area, and something that we hope that the community can be very proud of and stand behind and proudly wear it on their chest and cheer for us.
Total aside, but I might as well ask, as a longtime player, what did you personally feel was the coolest jersey that you ever donned? What hockey sweater was your favorite to wear?
That's a great question. A lot of them were cool for different reasons and whatnot, but I mean, it's hard to not just go with an original 6 jersey with Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought that was really cool, but that was just because they've been a team for over 100 years and won Stanley Cups. And growing up as a kid, you always think, oh, it would be so cool to be a Toronto Maple Leaf or a Chicago Blackhawk or New York Ranger. Any of these original 6 were always really cool, but but they all were kind of cool in their own ways. So yeah,
I'm glad you picked that one over like Carolina. No slight toward that team, but you gotta go with the classics, right, man?
Got to go with the classics. But I really enjoyed my time in Carolina as well, Anaheim, and a lot of the minor league stops were fun as well, and they all had their kind of uniqueness to it.
Troy, have you found, and you don't need to obviously go into any contracts or agreements, I know a lot of things are still coming together, but again, as given your post as director of hockey and business operations, have you found the business community receptive to working with the team for what you've been doing thus far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of excitement throughout the whole city, the whole Coachella Valley. It's been very receptive from the business community. Everyone's excited to get not just hockey, but a pro sports team, and like I mentioned earlier, just someone to really rally around. And no, everyone's been excited. It's I think we're gonna have a lot of unique partnerships and whatnot, and it's cool as this is a very destination resort spot, and it has some sort of challenges in a lot of ways, but a lot of things to be excited about as well.
As I prefaced it before we got the mic and the recorder cooking here as well, interesting hockey day for yours truly, for Uncle Juddy. Later today, I have the opportunity to meet and interview Steve Fraser, who is the president of the AHL club. Be doing that article for the Hockey News at Sports Illustrated. So I'm enthused to visit with Steve today. He's got an impressive resume, man. I think along with working a long time successfully for the Ontario Reign, which is soon to be our chief rival. We're not going to speak well of them. He's had an interesting career academically and from a business and sporting vantage. I don't know if you want to drop a question for me that I should ask Steve when I meet with him today, or perhaps you've gotten to know him a little bit and you want to enlighten the listeners as to what we can expect from the team president.
Yeah, well, Steve comes, like you said, with a lot of experience, a lot of education behind him, and we've been very excited to have him on board, and he's been a lot of fun to work with. He came over before Ontario. He was in South Carolina, with an ECHL team out there, the Stingrays, and so he's got a lot of experience with a non-traditional type market, and did a great job over there, and that's kind of how he kind of earned his way up. Was doing so well there, but I'll let you ask him. But he's got a lot of interesting things he does kind of on the side, and he's told me about something he's working towards now. Again, I'll let you go with that and see how much he wants to divulge.
Okay. ask you lastly, a couple questions to this effect, Troy. You mentioned the resort community, the getaway community. Obviously, travel, leisure, hospitality is indeed a big part of our market and where we live, as is the golf industry. It's a huge part of employment. It's a big reason why people write about this area or why media cover this area. Before we talk about your own golf, have you had some dealings? You don't need to mention the courses if you don't want to, but dealings with the golf community as any kind of marrying between the team and any courses?
That's a good question. I don't think we have anything set in place for any specific course. Obviously, we're very close in proximity to the Classic Club there, and we've been. I haven't had the pleasure of playing it yet. I do like to get out there and play, and played a few times in the desert, but very open to trying all the clubs. So, love to get out there and do the tour someday.
Absolutely. Well, you know that by virtue of being a guest on the Spice for Speaking podcast, no less a double interviewee in a 2-month time window, it's incumbent upon me to take you out to go play golf. And the hockey players that I've traditionally played golf with, being from the state of hockey myself, as listeners know, usually pretty darn good golfers, man. I mean, the golf swing and the slap shot, they are interrelated in many ways, would you say?
Absolutely. A lot of the hockey players, there's a lot of hockey players that are very good golfers, and they hit the ball a ton, and that's really kind of the big thing is they hit it a mile and sometimes have to go look for it a mile the other way. But no, they can play, that's for sure. And there's a lot of guys there's a lot of people in the hockey community still that are in the desert, and it's. Yeah, I'm excited to get out and play and play with you. And now that I'm a veteran of the interviews with you, and there we go.
Desert Willow Golf Resort. I trust that our friends over there would be happy to have us one day when you find yourself in the desert and you got time to kill with me and go knock it around. How is your game? Is that your game? The power. You're a big guy. Is that what you rely on the course? Is power from the tee, Troy?
I do rely on it. I've tried over the years to round out my game, but that's kind of always been the strong suit. So, but like, I may have been referring to myself when I say I pound it down and then have to go look for it extra hard a couple of times, but hopefully I can keep it straight when we play together and put up a score.
Troy Bodie, friends, one more time, Director of Hockey and Business Operations for our Palm Springs AHL team. It's all coming together. It's been about 10 or 12 days, Troy, since I drove on Varner, or I drove on the 10 past the arena site, as you referenced, adjacent to the Classic Club and what is basically Palm Desert. A lot of trucks out there, a lot of dudes working and sweating and moving sand, and starting to see it come together. And I just feel like there's going to be one day, I don't know, next month or 6 weeks, I don't want to put a timetable on it, where I'm just going to drive by there and it's going to be like, man, there's kind of an arena, like we can kind of see something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's coming along. And, I actually drove by it the other day and it was, it's, you kind of have to look for it at first because it is starting below grade, so it's kind of just peeking its way up. But you have to trust me, there is a lot of work going on there and there's a lot of concrete poured, and it's interesting in that way, but it's, before our eyes, it's just going to start rising up above the ground level there, and before you know it, there'll be a big arena there ready to. You can see that, you'll be able to see the hockey just spewing out of it.
Look forward to that day. Like we said, it's a year away, but now that the NHL season is getting underway this week, that puck's going to move pretty fast, man. It's going to be an exciting year leading up to the debut of our Palm Springs AHL team, which, as Troy was kind enough to share, November 5th, there's going to be some news about our team name, uniforms, I believe you said as well.
Not exactly
Oh,
the
okay. Pardon me.
uniforms. It will be the brand, and we'll have the logo, but not exactly the arena, or sorry, the jerseys and
Okay.
that. So we'll save
All
that
right.
for another day.
I look forward to November 5th. And look forward to you getting back to the desert, Troy, when you're ready to have me make that tea time. Just let me know, man. Thank you so much for your time today, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Judd.